Jamuna tira vanachari Jamuna tira vanachari Jamuna tira vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. जय श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव भक्त वृंद की जय, जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So I'm very, very happy to be back amongst all of you wonderful devotees at the lotus feet of Shri Shri Radha Neela Madhav. Especially I would like to thank our temple management, Namavritta Prabhu, Damodar Prasad Prabhu, for giving us this opportunity to serve all of you all. And we'd also like to express our gratitude to His Grace Hari Vilas Prabhu, who's always inspiring us by his wonderful example. So, for the next couple of days, we would like to speak about the glories of Srila Ramanujacharya. This year is being celebrated all over the world as the 1000th birth anniversary of this divine saint, Ramanujacharya. So very briefly, we'll describe about his childhood and then we'll delve into a particular pastime which we would try to understand in greater detail. So for the next 3 days, today and the next 2 days, we'll be describing this pastime. So is that all right? Everyone is ready for that? Okay. So about 1,000 years ago, in South India was born a very renowned saint. On his birth, his uncle Sri Shailapurna, a sannyasi in the Lakshmi Sampradaya, the Shri Sampradaya, he came to the house of this new baby, where the baby was born, and he gave the name Ramanuja to this baby. As a young child, Ramanuja was extremely brilliant, very intelligent. He was especially very much interested in understanding the scriptures, and at a very young age, he became a master of the Vedic literatures. He was considered to be a child prodigy. His father wanted him to attend a reputed institute. So he went to the University of Vedic Studies of those times in Kanchipuram, a city in South India. There, as he was studying under the tutelage of the most famous teacher of those times, Yadava Prakash, Ramanujacharya felt that the understanding and explanation of the scriptures at that point of time was very limited. And although he was in the most reputed institute, he could understand that over many generations, just because of blind acceptance, certain understandings of the scriptures had become very popular. And they were taken as the only understanding of the scripture. And Yadav Prakash, this great teacher of the Vedic literatures, he had such deep knowledge of the scriptures that all of his students far and wide, they considered themselves to be very fortunate to have received instructions from him, to have understood or studied under him. However, all that Yadav Prakash was doing was simply repeat what he considered to be that which was taught by the previous generations. That is all. He was very much sticking to, or he would only teach that which was passed down in a limited format, without actually trying to have his own realizations of the scriptures. And such a dogmatic approach over many generations had led to this limited understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth as being impersonal. So the Supreme Absolute Truth was impersonal. There was no existence of the spiritual world. Everything was simply formless Brahman. And most incorrectly, what was accepted as a norm is that the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are simply a manifestation of illusion. And only those who are less intelligent, they would consider the form and the pastimes to be important, for once one had evolved in one's consciousness, then ultimately one would merge in the impersonal Brahman. And this was the accepted teachings of those times. And anyone who would present these teachings in a very scholastic, in a very scholarly way, that person was considered to be very learned, was honored and respected, not only in the educational circles, but also by the general mass of people. And when Yadava Prakash saw the potential in Ramanujacharya, he took special in Ramanuja, he took special interest in him, and he would give him private classes. But Ramanuja, who had been trained by his own father in the teachings of the scriptures, his father was an ardent follower of the Alvars. And he had explained to Ramanuja that how the Supreme Absolute Truth is not only a personality, but especially in his manifestation of Sri Lakshmiji, his expansion. His Lakshmiji is his own self, his energy. The Lord expresses compassion towards all living beings. So Ramanuja felt very hurt whenever the explanation of the Supreme Absolute Truth was being given as impersonal. And he tried to give his understanding, which was based on the understanding of the previous acharyas. He tried to put forth his understandings so that it may be considered by his teachers and all of them simply rejected his proposals. In fact, they felt that Ramanuja was wasting his potential. So they took special notice of him such that he would not get waylaid. He would not go wayward. He would not have the wrong interpretation of the scriptures. And try as they might, Ramanuja was always giving the explanation of the scriptures according to the complete understanding. So there was such a dichotomy, there was such a difference between what Ramanuja was presenting, and his presentation was so attractive that many students in his own class, many students in the school, in the institute of Yadav Prakash, they felt that Ramanuja had such a, not just a different, but a complete presentation of the absolute truth, that they were encouraging him by becoming his associates and by wanting to listen more from him. And when Yadav Prakash and all the other teachers of the established order, they saw that Ramanuja's interpretations are not only being put forth by him, but by other students. So they became very much concerned. And at one point of time, there was such fear or concern in the hearts of the teachers that they made an assassination attempt on Ramanuja. They wanted to kill him. He survived. By the grace of providence, he survived. And then he started his own school. And very soon, his school became very popular in Kanchipuram. And Ramanuja was having so many followers, most of the students wanted to come and join his institute. And his institute was open to one and all. And they loved his presentation. But then Providence had something else in store for Ramanuja. And at a very young age, Ramanuja took sannyas. He became a sannyasi of the renounced order, a Tridanda sannyasi. By then, he was given the title of Acharya, Sri Ramanujacharya. As a sannyasi, Ramanujacharya, he dedicated his life, his words, his actions to serving Lord Varadaraj in Kanchipuram. This is a beautiful deity form of Lord Narayan, Lord Krishna. Now Lord Varadaraj, the name suggests that he offers the best of boons. Lord Varadaraj is famous for fulfilling the boons of the desires of all devotees. So obviously he's very popular, isn't it? Like tomorrow onwards, if you say Lord Neela Madhav fulfills everyone's desires, there'll be a huge congregation of devotees wanting to seek blessings. Because all of us, we feel the need of superior grace. Unfortunately, we limit ourselves only to fulfillment of material desires. But a few of us are very intelligent. We come up to Lord Radha Neela Madhav, their lordships, and we request them, please accept all of our material offerings in service unto you, and return, give us more service. That's intelligence. Once Srila Prabhupada was asked by an admirer that you say by chanting Hare Krishna we'll go to the spiritual world. Prabhupada said, yes. And what are we going to do there? Srila Prabhupada said, chant more Hare Krishna. So intelligent devotees are those who come to Sri Sri Radha Neela Madhav. They offer all of their services to Radha Neela Madhav. Whatever objects, material possessions they have, they offer it to Sri Sri Radha Neela Madhav ji. And when they are pleased and they are ready to offer us their blessings, their boons, what does the devotee ask for? An intelligent devotee asks for more service. And when a devotee asks their lordships for more service, it melts the heart of their lordships. That this is my devotee. My devotee wants to serve me more and more and more. So Lord Varadaraj is very famous because he offers the best of benedictions. Vara means benedictions or boons. Da means one who offers. Raj means the king. So the king of those who can offer benedictions. Can you imagine how popular he is? Very popular. And Ramanujacharya was eagerly serving Lord Varadaraj. And Lord Varadaraj was so attracted to Ramanujacharya that Ramanujacharya became his very life. He considered Ramanujacharya to be his own son. The deity of Lord Varadaraj considered Ramanujacharya to be his own son. Any one of us here have received that special blessing? It would be nice to be called the son and daughter of the lordships, isn't it? But then it means we have to stay here to serve them. At that point of time, the center of all world power was Srirangam. The city of Srirangam was very powerful. Wealthy, had the most able administrators, very popular destination for all, and to top it all, there was a deity form of Lord Ranganath there in Srirangam, on the island of Srirangam. And how did Srirangam become so powerful? Because of the efforts of the great saint Ramanujacharya. Ramanujacharya was so powerful that he was practically the Pope of those times. And Srirangam was like the Vatican. And everyone all over the world, they surrendered their lives to the Lord of Srirangam, Lord Ranganath. But Ramanujacharya had left the planet. And it was his ardent desire that the leadership should be taken over by Ramanujacharya. He had observed Ramanujacharya. He had seen his wonderful qualities. He had seen that at a young age, this boy, this young man had such devotion for Lord Ranganath. This was before Ramanujacharya had taken sannyas. Unfortunately, when his disciple Mahapurna, Ramanujacharya's disciple Mahapurna, on the order of Ramanujacharya, understanding the desire of Ramanujacharya, was bringing Ramanujacharya from Sri Perumbudur. He was bringing him to Srirangam. On the way very close to Srirangam, they heard the news that Ramanujacharya had left for the spiritual world. Ramanujacharya was so sad hearing this that he felt that what is the use of coming to Srirangam when there is no Ramanujacharya there. So he again went back. So Mahapurna knew that it was Ramanujacharya's ardent desire that Ramanujacharya should come and take up the mantle of leadership of the entire community of Vaishnavas. He should become the head pontiff. He should become the Pope. Take up residence at Srirangam. But there was a problem. The problem was Lord Varadaraj would not part with Ramanujacharya. And all the devotees in Srirangam, in the absence of Ramanujacharya, they felt very morose. At the same time, as the news spread that Ramanujacharya's successor, personally chosen by Ramanujacharya, is Ramanujacharya, all of the devotees, they wanted Ramanujacharya to come to Srirangam. So they offered prayers to Lord Ranganath. And Mahapurna, he had a personal connection with Lord Ranganath. An open line of communication. So he communicated to Lord Ranganath that this is the desire of all the devotees. But how do we get Ramanujacharya to take a precedence in Srirangam? Because he's so satisfied serving at the temple of Lord Varadaraj in Kanchipuram. So Lord Ranganath, he came up with a plan. These are two forms of the same Lord. Now, if you ever think Krishna consciousness is boring, please reconsider. Krishna is a very exciting personality. And in his various forms, there is such intrigue. Listen carefully. Lord Ranganath, he called for his dear devotee Vararanga, the son of Yamunacharya. Vararanga was personally blessed by the goddess of learning, by the goddess of music, and by Sri Devi herself, the goddess of fortune. He would sing so beautifully and with such a devotional heart that his greatest fan was none other than Lord Ranganath. Lord Ranganath on his web page was simply publishing the music of Vararanga. That was how much Lord Ranganath loved Vararanga. Lord Ranganath told Vararanga, you should go and serve the Lord of Kanchi, Varadaraj. Vararanga accepted that instruction and went to Kanchipuram, and he requested for some service, and he was given service. And when Vararanga started singing for Lord Varadaraj, Lord Varadaraj was mesmerized, and he couldn't stop listening to the beautiful songs of the alvars that was being sung by Vararanga. And after a couple of days of being so pleased by this wonderful service being rendered by Vararanga, Lord Varadaraj did what was his default mode. He offered a boon. Please ask for a boon. And Vararanga said, my dear Lord Varadaraj, please send Ramanujacharya to Srirangam. That was the plan. Interesting plan, isn't it? Just imagine, if a Gaur-Nitai, Sitaram, Lakshman, Hanumanji, they all have such intriguing affairs on the altar. There was one Gujarati gentleman. Srila Prabhupada stayed with him in Mumbai. And then the devotees of Srila Prabhupada, Giriraj Maharaj, Giriraj Das Brahmacharya at that time, they were living with him. And he had this deity of Srinathji. And the devotees, one of the devotees, they had the deities of Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra Devi, and Sudarshanji Maharaj. So they asked him that, could you place these deities on the altar too? A couple of days later, one morning, the gentleman, he called Giriraj Maharaj and let him know that, please take away your deities of Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra. I'll give you a separate place where you can worship them. And he asked him that, why are you saying that? Because Lord Srinathji appeared in my dream. And he said, I'm not able to eat any sweets that you offer to me. Srinathji is Girdhar Gopal, you know. For many days, I'm not able to taste sweets. And in Gujarat, you know, and especially Rajasthan, sweets are very important. People love sweets. So he said, my dear Lord, every day I offer sweets unto you. He said, yes, but this. And he pointed out to Balaram and he said, he always takes away all the sweets. So the Gujarati gentleman, in his dream, he asked Lord Balaram that, why do you do that? I offer sweets to you too. He said, well, in Jagannath Puri, we eat sweets first. So all the sweets that are on the altar, Balaramji and Jagannathji would eat that first. In Gujarat, they eat sweet at the end of the meal. So by the time Srinathji would come to his dessert, there was no dessert. Because the dessert had become the main meal. So it's fun serving deities actually. Because they have interesting pastimes. However, it just requires a little qualification to be able to understand their pastimes. And the little qualification is pure devotional service. That's it. Akinchana bhakti. Lord Varadaraj was in a very difficult position. If he accepted to offer that boon, that would mean Ramanujacharya would leave for Srirangam, and then he would have to be bereft of the association of Ramanujacharya, and Ramanujacharya was his very life. And at the same time, if he did not offer that boon, then he would have to legally change his name, and that would create problems for his social security number. Which was not an option for him. He is Lord Varadaraj. He couldn't become Lord non-Varadaraj. He's Varadaraj Swami. So then, with a very heavy heart, he gave blessings to Ramanujacharya to go to Srirangam. And when Ramanujacharya was leaving the town of Kanchipuram, Lord Varadaraj, he experienced the same feelings of separation as was experienced many, many ages ago by Dashrath Maharaj when Lord Ramachandra was leaving for the forest. And all the devotees of Kanchipuram, they were suffering from the same emotions of separation as the residents of Ayodhya when Lord Ramachandra left them and went into the forest. In Srirangam, as soon as Ramanujacharya arrived, they were in a very festive mood. It was as if Lord Ramachandra had returned back to Ayodhya after exile. The residents of Srirangam felt so happy. Immediately, Ramanujacharya was established as the head of the Srirangam community and the head of the Srirangam temple. And Ramanujacharya dedicated himself completely to serving Lord Ranganath. One day, Mahapurnaji, who was also his initiating spiritual master, very confidentially, he advised him. He said, you are very expert in all the Vedic literatures. However, if you really want to understand the essence of devotional service, then you must go and serve a wonderful disciple of Yamunacharya of the name Gosthipurna. And you must learn the teachings of the previous acharyas, the alvars, from him, from their writings, the Divya Prabandhams. Gosthipurna also has a special mantra. This mantra is very secret. Anyone who has this mantra and would chant this mantra at the end of their life, they would immediately enter Vaikuntha. This mantra is so potent and so powerful. There is only one person in the entire creation that has this mantra, and that is Gosthipurna. And according to the norms of the mantra, Gosthipurna has to reveal this mantra to only one other person at the time when he is ready to go to Vaikuntha. Gosthipurna is very old at this point of time. And it is my wish, said Mahapurna, that you should go and receive the mantra from Gosthipurna. Now, such a powerful mantra. How many of us would want to know what the mantra is? Please raise up your hands. The mantra that gives us access to the spiritual world. How many of us would not want to have the mantra? Please raise up your hands. How many of us... Advaita. You know the mantra? No, we are asking you, would you like to have the mantra? Okay. Or would you not? Yeah. So, the question was, how many of us would not like to have the mantra? Okay, everyone would like to want. So, what about the fence sitters? Those who have not as yet decided what to do will just follow the crowd. Decisions are very important in life. All we need is the courage. The courage to take decisions in life. So ready? Everyone is ready to receive the mantra? Then the question comes to mind. Why isn't Mahapurnaji eager to receive the mantra? Mahapurnaji was the only person who knew. Ramanujacharya had no idea that there is a secret mantra. So why didn't Mahapurna want the mantra for himself? Shouldn't that be an important question that we ask of ourselves? We read the story, we hear the story, but we forget to ask important questions. Is Mahapurna lacking confidence in himself? Oh, I cannot do it. Or is Mahapurna having ulterior motives that let Ramanujacharya get the mantra and then I'll arm twist him and get the mantra from him? So this is a very important principle of Vaishnava philosophy. The important principle of Vaishnava philosophy is to serve one another. Vaishnavism, if it can be defined, that what is Vaishnavism? Vaishnavism is defined as serving Krishna and Krishna's creation. Service. Obviously, to render service, one must have affection. Because service that is forced, it creates enmity. It creates factions. It creates dissatisfaction. So service has to be out of love. And love is the very essence of the soul. To love Krishna. Mahapurnaji, he was so well trained in the understanding of the scriptures by Ramanujacharya, because he knew that it was Ramanujacharya's desire that Ramanujacharya should be the next leader, the Acharya. Therefore he considered Ramanujacharya to be the representative of Ramanujacharya, non-different from Ramanujacharya, and he wanted to serve Ramanujacharya as he would have served Ramanujacharya. And considering himself to be a servant, he felt that all that which is beneficial, all that which is great, that should be offered to the Acharya, Ramanujacharya. And although he himself was the initiating spiritual master of Ramanujacharya, because Ramanujacharya was the Acharya for the entire Vaishnava community, Mahapurna felt himself to be the servant of Ramanujacharya. And therefore, he wanted Ramanujacharya to have the mantra. Then what about Ramanujacharya? Shouldn't Ramanujacharya also exhibit this Vaishnava quality of being a servant? And say, Guru Maharaj, you should be the one who should receive the mantra. And they could go pehle aap, pehle aap, pehle aap, pehle aap. Like that. First you, first you. Ramanujacharya, he always considered himself to be the servant of Mahapurnaji. And since it was Mahapurnaji's instruction to go and receive the blessings of Gosthipurna, Ramanujacharya as the servant of Mahapurnaji, he accepted that instruction as his life and soul. Please believe us when we say Ramanujacharya was never distracted by the potency of the mantra. The greatness of the mantra was not the goal of Ramanujacharya. The goal of Ramanujacharya was to serve the instructions of Mahapurnaji. And if it meant to receive the greatest of the mantras, he would do that. And while doing that, while performing the service, he would not be distracted. He would not be allured by the benefits that the mantra was offering him. Such as Vaishnav etiquette behavior. That even if the Supreme Lord were to offer us Vaikuntha, and the spiritual master would offer us, or the devotee would offer us service in Vaikuntha, then a devotee would be wanting service more than residence in Vaikuntha. Diyamanam na grinanti vina mad bhakti jana, vina mat sevaya jana. Third canto, Kapil Muni, he says, my devotees, they want no other benedictions except service unto me. And even if that meant giving up liberation, the five kinds of liberation, then they would not be interested in liberation as much as they are interested in service. Shalokya samipya sarshti. And what is the other? Sarupya aikatvam ityuta. Diyamanam na grinanti vina mat sevanam janaha. Such dealings amongst devotees is what makes the practice of devotional service very attractive. Where one is wanting to serve each other, and in such service there is so much dynamism that it is simply not expression of words. That Prabhu, can I do some service? Please, I am your servant. Oh, there are some pots to be washed. I'll send somebody else. Sometimes as devotees we wonder, till what time are we supposed to do service like this? Like for how many years? Can we imagine doing service for an entire lifetime? Seems so preposterous. What? All the other institutions, they offer you this hierarchy of advancement. You do service for 7 years, you get this position. After that, you get service done by others. So now you become the servant of the servants, which is servant in charge. Servant leadership. Servant leadership basically sometimes means in this world leadership of servants. Becoming the leader of servants. So get all the servants under you, and being the leader, you give them job opportunities in this world. You know? But Vaishnavism is wanting to serve others because that is the very nature of the spirit soul. It's difficult to understand in the conditioned state. It's true. But the more we try and have faith in this philosophy, and more importantly, even if we just go on acting out this principle, even if you put up a drama again and again and again, you know, if you have the same role and you perform the same role in a drama again and again and again, after some time you start living according to that performance. You start believing in that performance. That is how your behavior starts manifesting. So even if we are not aware that this actually is a constitutional position to render service, if we act, if we simply try and imitate again and again and again, then one day it becomes our very nature. And when it becomes our very nature, because that is the nature of the spirit soul, then there is alignment, realignment. So Ramanujacharya ji, he accepted the instruction of Mahapurna to go to Gosthipurna. Now Gosthipurna lived in another village, the village of Gosthipuri. I was giving this presentation in another place, and one devotee later on, he very humbly, he put forth his thought. He said, Prabhu, where is this place, Tirukuttiur? And I immediately understood what he meant. I said, yes, that is where Gosthipurna lived. Oh, so did you make a mistake when you said Gosthipuri? And then I had to explain him something very interesting. I said, what is Bombay to the entire world is Mumbai to those who live in Bombay. It's the same place with different names. One is the local name, the other is the legal name, or the name that is used on postcards. So the postcards use the name Gosthipuri. But in devotional literatures, it is also called as Tirukottiur. Actually, that is also not the real, the pronunciation is a little wrong. It is Tirugosthipur. And there's a reason for it. Gosthipuri is a beautiful town. It's a day's journey from Srirangam. In those days, it was an entire day's journey because the only means of conveyance then was your 2 feet. You had to walk all the way. Many, many ages ago, the demigods had all assembled. The entire multitude of demigods had all assembled in this town. And they were having a very serious discussion. Now, discussion technically in Sanskrit is known as Goshti. You've heard this word before? Goshti? Where have you heard it? Ishta Goshti. See? We've heard this word before. Ishta Goshti. We've heard it, right? So Goshti means discussion. And what is Puri? A place, a town. How do you know that? Yes, Jagannath Puri. The most famous. Jagannath Puri. It is a town of Lord Jagannath. The town of Lord Jagannath is called as Jagannath Puri. So what is Goshti Puri? The town where the demigods had come together to have a very serious discussion. What were the demigods discussing about? They were wondering how they were going to stop a very, very powerful and cruel terrorist. Now, all the demigods had come together. Can you imagine how powerful this terrorist must have been? And after a very serious discussion, the conclusion was, there's nothing that we can do. They felt helpless. So then the demigods decided to pray to Lord Narayan. And Lord Narayan appeared in that town. And that town was blessed by the presence of Lord Narayan. Lord Narayan, he assured them that I will personally put an end to the activities, the atrocities of this cruel person. And do you know who this cruel person was? Was terrorizing the entire universe? Any idea? Come on, take a wild guess. Hiranyakashipu, obviously. Who else could it be? I mean, there's never been anyone as cruel as him. Hiranyakashipu. So that was a town. This is the town of Gosthipuri. Ramanujacharya, he walked the entire day with a few followers. And when he was on the outskirts of the town of Gosthipuri, he was right there on the border. Ramanujacharya felt so moved that here I am in the town of this holy saint. The dust of this holy place has been touched by the lotus feet of Gosthipurna ji. And I'm so fortunate that in this lifetime, I'm able to touch this holy place, to feel the dust of this holy place. That Ramanujacharya, overwhelmed with gratitude, he fell down and offered his prostrated obeisances to this holy place. Now, two things. First of all, about prostrated obeisances or dandavats. Everyone here knows what is dandavat pranam. Everyone here has offered dandavat pranams. How many of us have offered dandavat pranams? Please raise your hands. I mean, obviously, that ladies, there is a restricted form of dandavat pranams that you may offer. But complete surrender with our limbs, we've offered that. Almost every day when we come to the temple, we do that, right? We offer a dandavat pranam to Srila Prabhupada. Now, imagine this. We are about to offer a pranam to Prabhupada, and suddenly our phone rings. What happens? We have ecstasy. Our whole body is vibrating along with the phone vibrating. How many times has the phone interrupted us while we are about to offer Dandavat Pranam? And how many times has it been that we have offered the fastest mantra pronunciation as the phone is ringing? Hello, Hare Krishna. Technically, we are offering Dandavat Pranams. But a small phone distracts us from experiencing a very deep spiritual emotion of surrender. When the first Jagannath deity was being made in a movement, when the devotee who was sculpting out the deity, that devotee still was continuing on with a particular habit. His habit was that he would smoke cigarettes regularly. So as he was sculpting out this form of Lord Jagannath, he had a cigarette. And when he had to use both of his hands, sometimes he would take the cigarette butt, the lighted part. He would take it out of his mouth and put it on the form, that wooden form that he was carving the deity out from. He would put it on the head. And once Srila Prabhupada, he came there to see as to how this form was manifesting. And this particular gentleman, seeing Srila Prabhupada there with him, he was so excited that he forgot that he had put the cigarette butt, the lighted cigarette butt, he had put it on the head of this form. This form was not complete as yet. And Srila Prabhupada very intensely looked at the form that was manifesting of Lord Jagannath, and then his eyes caught sight of that cigarette. And Srila Prabhupada looked at this devotee in the making. He looked at him and he said, "Why are you allowing a little cigarette to come between you and Krishna?" And so powerful was that instruction that the devotee gave up smoking cigarettes right then for an entire lifetime. Somebody should, instruct us like that. Why do you let a cell phone come between you and your dandavat? Now it would be difficult to give up a smartphones. It would be very helpful, isn't it? So, the point that I'm trying to put forth is that when we do our rituals, we should try and put our emotions in those rituals. Over a period of time, this material world conditions us in such a way that we become experts at converting spiritual into ritual. And we become so expert that actually we lose the very spirit of that activity. Hence, a devotee consciously tries to put in the spirit into all rituals that is there. And a devotee should try to make rituals into spiritual. Rather than let the spiritual turn into rituals, we should try to bring in the spirit in the rituals that we perform. And how do we do that? By very stringent observation of our emotions, of our desires. Introspection is very important. And the introspection should not just happen at the end of the day. You sit down in your very comfortable couch and how was my day today? That is good. Introspection should also happen moment to moment because it helps us keep focused in life. And if this life, even a moment, if it is not spent serving Krishna, then a valuable moment is lost. Kamala dala jala jivana talamala. Every moment that is lost without conscious service unto Krishna, that could be the time that it takes. It could be that important moment where a drop of water on the leaf of a lotus plant, it is about to just fall off. Doesn't take long. Human form of life is like that. Within a speck of a moment, this life would be over. Therefore, we should not try to have faith in anything else except Krishna and Krishna's service in this material world. There's no one that can really be our real well-wisher except Krishna and Krishna's devotees. So Ramanujacharya was in complete ecstasy. His body was shivering. He was rolling in the dust of that holy place. And he was again and again crying tears. Oh, I'm so fortunate to be in this holy place. Why does it happen like that? Why would dust affect a person in such a deep manner? What is it about dust? We've been to Vrindavan, we collect so much dust from Vrindavan. How many of us, please don't raise up hands because it would be embarrassing, but remember the time when we've been to Vrindavan or to Jagannath Puri or some other holy place, a holy tree, and we really feel inspired to carry back a souvenir, some dust in a packet, some water from the holy Yamuna. And so many times it has happened in the lives of devotees that it just gets wasted away. I remember at one point of time I was at the house of a devotee and I was feeling very thirsty. And I saw this bottle of mineral water. So I opened up the bottle and I was drinking from the bottle, and my host comes running and says, Prabhuji, that is Yamuna water. I said, I'm so sorry. This was in Mumbai, so even half a liter of Yamuna water in a bottle of mineral water is very, very precious. Shri Shri Radha Neela Madhav Bhagwan ki jai, Shri Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Maiya ki jai, Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ji ki jai, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai, Lakshmi Narsingha Deva Bhagwan ki jai. And then I asked him, Prabhu, what is this water doing here? And he said, well, 2 years ago I had gone to Vrindavan and had collected this water and had kept it. And I said, so do you use it? He said, no, it's just been standing there. Well, let's suppose it wasn't me. It was some unknown person who walks into the room and the host is not there. What would they have done with the water? They would have drunk it down. It's gone. Sometimes when we collect our relics or our souvenirs from the holy place, the material world conditions us to forget about their existence within our lives. So what is about the dust of a holy place? Why do great saintly personalities suddenly start shivering and having crying tears? I mean, we do that. It requires at least a few bottles of glycerin to be put into our eyes. Why do saintly people exhibit such emotions? A simple example. A magnet is such an unusual element that if a magnet is in a particular place, then when iron particles come close to the magnet, suddenly they rush towards the magnet. They are so forcefully attracted to the magnet. Have you seen that? Why is that? Why do iron particles become so attracted towards the magnet when they are within a certain geographical area close to the magnet? Why does it happen like that? Anyone? It's the nature of the iron particles to do that. Why do they become attracted? Like, are they long lost friends like, oh, magnet G? And they run towards the magnet? Yes, what happens? What is the scientific understanding? Akarshan Shakti. Yes, Akarshan Shakti. Kiski Akarshan Shakti? Iron ki Akarshan Shakti? Magnet ki Akarshan Shakti. The magnet has this power, this ability that it can attract iron particles. Right? But can it attract iron particles from anywhere? Where does it attract the iron particles? Within the field. There is a particular field. What is that field called? A magnetic field. Where does the magnetic field come from? The magnet has this ability to exert a magnetic field. Isn't it? Does any other element do that? Can gold do that? Silver? Copper? It's a magnet. Obviously a magnet could be one of those metals. But it's a magnet, right? Magnet exerts a magnetic field. Similarly, spiritual personalities, by the power of their austerities, their spiritual practices, they exert a spiritual field in the area where they stay. And this spiritual influence affects the air, the water, the trees, and other elements in that place. And whenever saintly personalities, they come in contact, they come within the range of the spiritual influence, they are immediately affected by it. Why are we not affected by it then? Why don't we come to a spiritual place and suddenly we start... That would be scary, isn't it? If a group of devotees go like that and suddenly someone starts, we would think epilepsy, crying tears. Why doesn't it happen? Again, going back to the example of the magnet and the iron particles, the iron filings. When does the iron particle not get attracted to the magnet, even when it is within the magnetic field and there is no external object in between the two? When does the iron filing not get attracted to the magnet? And they are not having their opposite poles, like poles face each other. What prevents an iron particle from becoming attracted to the magnet even when it is within the magnetic field? Rust. It is rust. And where does rust come from? Where does the iron gather rust? Oxidation. It is the iron itself which allows itself to get oxidized and become covered by rust. Similarly, when the living entities, they allow themselves to become oxidized by material desires, then the rust of material attraction covers their consciousness, and it is this rust of material desires and distractions that is covering the consciousness of the spirit soul that prevents the spirit soul from being influenced by the spiritual nature of the holy place. So it is so very important that we become rust free. And to free ourselves from the rust, we need to scrape off the rust. And you know what is the process of scraping called as? Sanding. You have to take sandpaper and scrape off that rust from the iron particle, isn't it? And similarly, to scrape off the rust from our consciousness, the rust of material desires, you know what is the sanding process? It is painful. The chanting of the holy names, following the regulative principles, visiting the holy dhams in the association of great devotees, hearing Krishna Katha, this is the sanding process. And till when is the sanding process important? Till we become rust free. And trust me, initiation does not make us rust free. Initiation is a very, very healthy process to encourage us to become rust free. But if we feel that initiation ho gaya, sab kuch ho gaya, then we are in for a big shocker in our lives. So this material world constantly oxidizes us or attempts to oxidize us. It constantly tries to bewilder us. You know, I grew up in Mumbai, or in Maharashtra. So when I started visiting the ISKCON temple many years ago, the first slogan that I saw, that was a very catchy phrase, is Maya Das Sadaudas, Krishna Das Bindas. For those of you who got it, you understand. Maya Das Sadaudas, one who is the servant of Maya, is always in anxiety, is always sorrowful, always in misery. Krishna Das Bindas, but one who is a servant of Krishna is always carefree. One is always in misery, whereas a devotee of Krishna is carefree. So over a period of time, sometimes we come up with very smart, rebounds like that. Like I was giving a presentation somewhere and I was mentioning that how happiness and wealth are not, it is not really, we think that it is related, but it is not really related, because wealth cannot bring you happiness. It's a catchy phrase, many people have used it. That wealth cannot buy you happiness. So retort. A very smart person, kind enough that he did not interrupt me, but later on after my presentation comes up to me and says, "Sir, I agree with what you say. Wealth cannot buy happiness, but it does make misery less. Sorry. It does make life less miserable. It does not buy happiness, but does make life less miserable." And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Similarly, a devotee came up with this retort. Just kind of humor. Mayadas Sadaudas, Krishnadas Bindas. And I know that a devotee of Krishna is carefree. He says, no. Krishnadas Binadas. The devotee of Krishna is not a servant of anyone. And I'm like, wow. That's smart. But a wrong interpretation. Bin also means without. So bindas. Das means servant. So we must try and not get into such word jugglery. We should try to understand what is the real import of the scriptures. So, when Ramanujacharya, he visited Gosthipurna, he was so touched by the influence of that holy place, and he felt so grateful to be in that holy place which had the dust touched by the lotus feet of Gosthipurna, that he couldn't get up. He entered the town offering prostrated obeisances one after the other. Dandvat pranams. Once a few of us, we tried Dandvat pranams on Govardhan Parikrama. You know that beautiful mystical hill in Govardhan? Got very excited. I can also do Dandvat pranam. And after the second Dandvat, the only object of our meditation was our back. You know how when you offer Dandvat and you get up, you're like, oh. But Ramanujacharya entered a town offering Dandvat pranams. And then he went to the place where Gosthipurna ji was delivering a lecture. Not wanting to disturb the audience, Ramanujacharya stood at the very end, back of the audience. No one was aware that he was there. And Ramanujacharya knew that if he walked up to Gosthipurna, people would be distracted. So considering himself to be very insignificant, he stood right at the back of the crowd. And he waited for Gosthipurna ji to deliver his lecture. And Gosthipurna ji, after he delivered his lecture, he got up from the Vyasasan. And Ramanujacharya ji was expecting that Gosthipurna ji would notice him. What happened was, Gosthipurna walked right past him without noticing him. And when Ramanujacharya saw that happen, his only thought was, my anarthas are so intense, they are so great, that they're completely covering up my existence, and hence a great personality like Gosthipurna is not able to notice me. And this is one of the very important qualities of devotees who are focused. Whenever they are faced with challenges or failures in their life, they always see that as an opportunity for improvement, self-improvement. And specifically, very advanced devotees, they're constantly seeing situations where there is room for improvement. And Lord Chaitanya offered Haridas Thakur that boon, that Haridas, you can reduce the number of rounds you're chanting. And Haridas Thakur said, my dear Lord, you're the independent Supreme Personality of Godhead. You can do whatever you want. But as far as I'm concerned, my mind is diseased. my body is all right. So he never felt himself qualified to receive a boon where he has to chant less number of rounds. Because he felt that it was a disease of his mind, because of which he was not able to complete the chanting of his holy names. So a devotee always sees many opportunities where there is room for improvement. In fact, that is what keeps the spiritual world very exciting. Because as soon as Srimati Radharani makes a preparation, she's always considering how to improve on this. And therefore she never makes a preparation twice. She never does that. Here, we fall into the trap of always replicating that which has been successful. Oh, this turned out to be very good. Let's do it again. But in the spiritual world, devotees, they always introspect where they can improve to serve Krishna. And because they are always introspecting and trying to serve Krishna in different ways, Krishna is always excited to receive their service. Otherwise, Krishna could get quite bored, Every day, 7 agarbattis around him. Every single day incense sticks 7 times. And Krishna is like, come on, put some emotion in it. I mean, it's the same flavor of incense, same rose flavored incense. In fact, the fly that is on the altar regularly, even the fly is bored. Like, even I don't want to fly away. So Krishna, he loves different flavors. And when are we looking for new and new opportunities? When we are introspecting where we can improve. If this desire to improve is not there, then there will be unhealthy competition. The only way we would want to try out something new is so that we can do better than others, or try to do better than what they have done. So there is unhealthy competition. But if we try to introspect where we can improve more, then Krishna gives us the intelligence to see how we can offer a perfect preparation in a more beautiful way. And therefore in the spiritual world, there is perfection, but still there are higher stages of perfection. Perfect, more perfect, most perfect, and then on, like that. Anandam buddhivardhanam pratipadam purna amrit aswadanam. Anandam buddhivardhanam. How does the spiritual experience constantly improve, increase when it is perfect? The spiritual is perfect, so how does it increase, improve? And therefore Srila Prabhupada says, perfect, more perfect, most perfect. It is not an oxymoron. It's difficult to understand how it is. Because perfect and more kind of contradict each other. This is not an oxymoron. This is how the spiritual world is. So when Ramanujacharya, he saw that as an opportunity for self-improvement. So the entire day, he simply took shelter of the holy names. Now for those of you who heard this story, you know that it's not going to be so easy for Ramanujacharya, right? He had to make this journey again and again and again. He had to try and make attempt to receive the mercy of Gosthipurna again and again and again. And anyone remembers how many times he had to make that attempt? And he was met with failure. 18 times. 18 times did Ramanujacharya try and approach Gosthipurna. 18 times did Gosthipurna not give his mercy. Let me ask you this question, and this is the final question for today's presentation. No, there'll be another one. No, sorry, just one more question. How many times have we in our life faced failure while making an attempt to achieve something? There's an object that we want to achieve. and we have not achieved it. How many times that has happened in our life? At least once. Has it happened? Please raise up your hands. And those of us who have again made an attempt to achieve it, please raise up your hands. You have made an attempt again to achieve the same goal. And you have not achieved it. And you make a third attempt. How many of us had made a third attempt at the same? And you don't achieve it. How many of us have gone for the fourth attempt? Oh, the numbers are declining. And the fifth, do you remember making the attempt at the same goal? Just one person. Shouldn't Ramanujacharya have given it up like after 5 or 6 attempts? He made 18 attempts and still he was not successful. So do you know what is a very important question that we should be asking ourselves, and not another question that has become very popular for the past 1.5 years? Rather than ask why did Katappa kill Bahubali, we should try and understand why did Ramanujacharya make 18 attempts. And if anyone is interested, we are accepting finances to make a movie on that. No, not really, that was a joke. Why did Ramanujacharya make 18 attempts? Would be more helpful for a consciousness to evolve than such questions, even though they are based on, so-called understanding of the scriptures. So why did Ramanujacharya do that, and what else happened during this attempt of his, or attempts of his? We'll try to understand tomorrow and the day after. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So any questions or comments on what we have spoken today? Clarifications? Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Ramanujacharya ki jai. Srimad Ramanujacharya Sharanam Charano Prapatte. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Damodar Prasad.